Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents. In today's episode, new bikes trigger entitled parents. No, I will not babysit your kids. AITA for confronting a neighbor who was rude to my son at trick or treat because of a rule I'd never heard of? Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. New bikes trigger entitled parents. Several people here thought this should be posted as its own post, so here it goes. For my 10th birthday I got an amazing bike. It was bright pink, neon was just starting to be a thing, and had purple streamers and a purple basket. The best part was that it was a 3-speed. In the early 80s this was huge. It was the Ferrari of bikes at the time. I had it for about 3 days when I noticed the mother of a semi-friend at my house. She was waving her arms around and obviously upset about something. My mother refused at the time to tell me what it was about, though I heard her say something to my father about the woman being insane. I promptly forgot about it after that day. 11-year time jump. For her 10th birthday, I bought my oldest niece her first adult bike. Like me, she loved it. A couple of days after her birthday there was a banging on my brother's front door. He had a doorbell, and I opened the door to find a furious neighbor of his. The woman was enraged that we had gotten my niece the bike because now her kid will want one and we needed to take it away to prevent that. It wasn't fair that my niece had the bike when her kid didn't. I was mostly confused by this, because it made no sense. My reply was something along the lines of, "So no one your kid knows is ever allowed to get anything until after your kid gets it? Good luck with that." Then I just shut the door. She also tried it with my brother and had about as much luck with him as she did with me. She did this several times over the years over different things. The weird thing was that we didn't really know her or her kids. She would just see that my oldest niece had something her kids didn't have and get mad about it and complain. The thing is, after I closed the door that day, I turned to see my mother doubled over laughing. I asked her what was so funny, and she finally told me what happened after I had gotten my new bike, all those years before. The mother of the semi-friend was furious that my parents had gotten me that bike because they were planning on getting the friend one, and they felt that she should be the first kid in our group to have a new bike because she was older. She tried demanding that my parents take my bike away from me because I was so young that it wasn't appropriate. She thought kids should be at least 12 before they got a bike that nice. She threatened to call the police because it was illegal for me to have that bike until I was 12. Like me, the situation confused my mother and she just shut the door. It was actually more confusing to my mother than me because entitled parents were still pretty rare when I was a kid. On a scale of 1 to 10, that EP is so far off the chart she's sitting on Mars. My neighbors have 2 kids and one of them got a bike when he was 2 years old. Will he end up in jail since it's illegal to have a bike under 12 years old? I think that what happens with a lot of these people is that they tell their own kids things like this to put off having to buy them more expensive things like really nice bikes, as opposed to the cheaper kids type bikes, and either they start to believe their own lies or they become angry when called out. If you spend a couple of years telling your kid that they can't have a certain bike until they are 12 because it's illegal, then they see a kid their age with one, well, the kid is likely to call you out on it. As I've been reading these stories over the last month or two, I had a kind of epiphany about this mindset. It feels to me like some of these EPs have internalized the keeping up with the Joneses mentality to such an extreme measure that it comes out as a kind of inverse of keeping up appearances mentality. We are all aware of the neighbors who buy fancy things in response to other neighbors doing likewise, but this is the inverse of it, where you get angry because you assume your neighbor is somehow trying to one-up you by getting something either for themselves or their kid. No, I will not babysit your kids. So, the schools around here have finally closed down for a few weeks. Thankfully, me wifey was smart enough to buy activity books and games that teach kids while they play. So they are still learning, but not stressed about it. She is so smart, I love her. My mom is currently staying with us, which makes her the coolest mom ever when she said she would watch our kids while we're at work. This is until we can figure out how to get our schedules adjusted so the kids are not alone. Well, apparently, according to the rest of the neighborhood, that meant everyone could drop off their kids at our house. Me wifey and I put our foot down and said no way. Some of those kids are sick with colds, and I don't want ours to get sick. One kid has chicken pox, and my mother never had them, so that is putting her in danger. Plus, none of the other parents want to pay my mom for watching their kids. Which, just so you know, I am by fixing up her car with my own pocket money. It runs well, but it has been making some grinding noises lately and the air conditioning needs work. Still, the other parents has gone far enough to just try and leave their kids on our lawn. I told the parents not to do that or I will call the police on them for abandoning their children. I know some of you are saying that maybe my mother should watch the healthy kids at least, but their parents haven't bathed them or fed them and expected my mother to do that. My mom has done a great job telling those parents no, and slowly, they are getting it. Very slowly. Still got some stubborn gits who talk down to my mother like she is the help and therefore, beneath them. I hope this virus gets dealt with soon, and I hope everyone is staying safe. So your mom came to town to babysit her grandkids and the neighbors thought that meant she was running a free daycare? That's wild. The scariest part of this crisis is the people. Ugh, it's stupider than that. She came to visit right before the virus hit home. One guy came into my dad's job sick, so she is staying with us until dad gets the all clear. The dumbass that came in knew he was sick, but came in anyways. This popped through my head too. How would a rational person see visitors at their neighbor's home, and then go on to think this stranger should tend to the care of their children's lives? No is a complete sentence, and I wouldn't watch someone else's kids either. I don't have kids of my own for a reason. You would also open yourself up to all kinds of liability issues, screw that. AITA for confronting a neighbor who was rude to my son at trick or treat because of a rule I'd never heard of? AITA for confronting a neighbor who was rude to my son at trick or treat because of a rule I'd never heard of? I, 27F, took my 4-year-old son trick or treating on Halloween, as normal parents do. He was so adorable in his costume and his joy was infectious. We went alone, house after house, lots of smiles, exclamations of how cute he was, and of course loads of candy. Then we came to one house. We rang the bell. Initially there was no answer, but I could see there were lights on in the house, so clearly people were home. Also, I heard shuffling behind the door, clearly they were looking through the peephole to see who was there. I rang again. Then after 2 more minutes, I rang a third time, and the woman opened the door with a nasty look, and before my son could even say trick or treat, she pointed to her porch light and rudely said porch light off means don't ring here and started to close the door. The look on my little boy's face was so heartbreaking, I could not let that nastiness slide. Plus, I had never heard of such a rule and told her so, and asked how she could break a little boy's heart like that. They repeated the rule and said she didn't have any candy anyway and to please leave her alone. I asked what kind of idiot doesn't make sure to have some bare minimum candy around on October 31st, like use a calendar. She said not everyone wants to be part of Halloween and slammed the door in my face. I comforted my poor son, explained some people are just terrible Grinches and we moved on to a few more houses but the night was ruined. It got worse. I got back home and saw my phone had insane notifications. Apparently this woman had recorded the whole interaction on her door camera and posted it to the local neighborhood Facebook group. Anyway, the backlash was so bad I had to leave the group. I'm still getting horrible DMS. Apparently the porch light rule is real. It's a way to signal you're opting out of Halloween. Who TF wants to opt out of Halloween? Even my husband won't back me up. He knew the rule, and while he's sympathetic to the social media abuse I'm getting, he said it was stupid of me to engage when she clearly didn't want to participate. I'm upset he thinks I should have let rudeness against our little boy slide. AITA for confronting this rude woman? I read this earlier and couldn't believe this. I mean, what idiot doesn't know that the porch light is an indicator as to whether or not the house is giving out treats? What rock did he grow up under? And then ringing 3 times. And confronting the poor woman. The entitlement. Yeah. Even if you don't know about the porch light, they obviously didn't want to answer to door. Ringing 3 times is shitty. I mean, I would let the porch lights off rule slide. I'm not from the US and wouldn't know it anyway. But when the house told her that they don't participate, she should have just apologized and leave. To stand there and complain about how dare the house not have candy is the one that pushes it over the edge. That's where the entitlement comes into play. Can't say I'm upset about the backlash she's getting. Porch light off meaning no candy is like the one universal rule of Halloween. Not everyone can afford candy, and sometimes people run out super early in the night. The fact that the OP rang the doorbell, no one answered, and then they kept ringing is absolute insanity. That breaks everyday social norms, not just Halloween ones. A second ring in case they didn't hear you is one thing, but seeing movement and knowing they've seen you and then ringing again is the most entitled Karen thing ever. And then villainizing them to her kid? Ridiculous. She's deleted her post, although she did respond to a couple of comments about how she could have just given him something and complimented his costume and not been rude to her son. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.